coordinating here at the State Operations Center with all the state agencies, as well as those county departments, to ensure that any resources that they need are being provided. Huge priorities right now for medical support and for firefighting and for emergency power. We have been in contact with private sector utilities, both the water department, our gas and electrical utility providers, to ensure that they have enough resources to try to get water and power up and restored as fast as possible. The quake happened at roughly around 8:20 tonight, and so it got dark pretty fast, and situational awareness is sketchy because the power's out and there's not a lot of lighting. So we know that as the day breaks, we'll be able to get a better assessment of the total amount of damage. And throughout the night tonight, though, we are working to move assets and resources in place or into staging areas so that we can have those resources immediately available in the morning in those communities as necessary. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to several speakers behind me. They're going to brief on what their agencies and departments are working on, and then I'll come back and answer any questions you may have. So I'm going to first turn it over to Deputy Commissioner of the Highway Patrol, Scott Silsby.
Good evening. I'll be really brief. Just as a reminder, it's a really remote area. The good news is that it being the holiday weekend, all law enforcement and EMS had ramped up and had extra resources available, so that's very helpful. As far as CHP responsibilities, quite a few of us are out there handling the road closures with Caltrans, and from there, our folks peel off and go check the structural integrity of overpasses and roadways with Caltrans, and so far, other than what Director Kim's going to tell you, we're hearing pretty good news. From there, their secondary mission is to assist the local law enforcement. So right now I'm hearing that the calls for service have dropped considerably, and that most of the calls are being covered pretty well. So as the director said, when daylight comes, we did have aircraft up too, but couldn't see a whole lot. So when daylight comes, we'll have a much better idea of what's needed. But the good news is the resources there are handling the situation well, and there's more resources going in the morning. So I'll be ready for any questions if you have any. Next, I'm going to turn it over to Major General David Baldwin, the Adjutant General of the California National Guard.
Thanks, Commissioner. It is mobilizing and deploying a joint task force to the impacted area that will include about 200 security forces, sustainment troops, which are logistical support, and aviation assets, including helicopters from the Army National Guard and cargo aircraft from California's Air National Guard. We've also alerted the remainder of the California Military Department, so all of the California Army National Guard, the Air National Guard, and our California State Guard in the event additional resources are required. I've also spoken with officials at the Pentagon, so if we need any help from out of state, from the active component, or from any other state's National Guard, that help will be on its way. I'll be followed by Chief Tom Porter from CAL FIRE.
CAL FIRE is prepared to respond with any of the state's resources that we have and that might be needed for this. As of now, we see that fire potential is pretty low for this weekend or moderate, and so we'll be able to use some of those resources from the California's fire department to meet any needs that are unmet. Also, our Office of the State Fire Marshal is working with the liquid pipe and fuel providers to ensure that their pipelines are safety through our pipeline safety program. So, I will be followed by David Kim, Secretary of Transportation Agency.
Thank you very much. I'd like to update you on the status of 3 roadways. The first is State Route 178. There is significant damage on 178 as a result of a rock slide across both lanes near Lake Isabella. There are also severe cracks in the roadway just outside the